So have Alejandro who's just joined. All right. Thank you, Alejandro, for coming. So, as Patricia said, rhetoric is just a device that we use to have a more effective speech, or when it is also applicable to when we write. In the case of the septo, it is important that not only you know how to use the perfect tense, the past tense, or this vocabulary is particularly good for this case. We don't care about that. I always say when you're being examined, you're being examined by a human. So take a chance of that and use some of these devices that I'm going to talk about and take it to your advantage. So let's start with ethos. Ethos, the way we remember this is by just replacing ethos with the word credibility. And for this slide, I'd like to have Alejandro to read me this slide, please.
Hello, teacher.
Hello.
Ethos. The resource credibility, the speaker's author's authority, an appeal to characters, etiquette appeal. We tend to believe people whom we respect. This respect may be automatic or it may be earned. One of the central problems of argumentation is to project an impression to the readers that you are someone worth listening to. In other words, making yourself as author into an authority on the subject of the paper, as well as someone who is likable and worthy for respect.
All right, thank you. So right here, we have two very important words. I'm going to highlight them. We have authority and appeal to character. So right off the bat, we feel that ethos is just talking about having character. Whatever you're going to tell me, you want me to believe it. If you want me to say, to believe that the earth is flat, well, you can say it, but ethos, it's all about the way you say it. If you're confident enough to talk about the earth is flat, well, you're probably gonna make me believe that because you're being very credible and you have the authority. Here is very important, not your accent. Is what's really important is your intonation. So I always talk about the staircase intonation, talking first very high and then go very low. As you speak very high and then very low, you come across as someone who has a lot of confidence. So try to apply that. It is important that when you speak, and I say it is probably the most important thing about the septo, is your tone. Some people like to speak with an ending intonation like this, and it sounds like if it was a question. So no, don't do that. Try to be more credible, and whatever you say, even if it doesn't make sense, is gonna come with a better point. All right. So I have here an example of ethos. And this is a very interesting example because this is a guy from Fox News. Oh, because uh wait a second. I don't know if I'm sharing my audio. Share computer audio, yeah. Okay. Also I need to log out from here. All right, this is the example. His name is Tucker Carlson. He's a very famous anchor from Fox News. Fox News, right off the bat, has a lot of pathos because it's a very famous news source. In this case, Tucker Carlson is one of the anchors who has a lot of ethos. because the way he talks is very assertive. He says this and he says it with a lot of confidence. In this case, he's talking about some protests that happened in 2011 from some unions, the, the representatives of the workers, and also he's saying another thing that happened in in a similar context in 2020. It's basically the same argument, but he changes his opinion. So let's see about that.
In Michigan, hundreds of people protested and managed to push inside the state capitol.
The pro-union protesters inside the Capitol building. This is America. We're allowed to disagree with what our leaders do however we like, and we're allowed to express that disagreement in public. That's our birthright. Yes, that's America. So with the left holding the democratic process hostage, what is next for Wisconsin? Michonne Maddock participated in today's protest. She joins us. Thank you for coming on tonight, and thank you for exercising your constitutionally protected rights as an American. Bless you.
Thank you.
Pro-union protesters scream like children. Why doesn't the left make its case, win the voters of Wisconsin to its side, rather than resorting to tactics that really are contemptible?
All right, that was the video. So what can we see from that video? Patricia, go ahead. And remember to unmute your microphone.
Teacher, they are the same person, and they were talking about a social situation, and the way they present the speech is was better in the first one than the second. I think that in the first part, the man projected a good impression because I believe what was he saying. And in the second one, I know that he was the same person, but I don't believe the credibility is not good for me. I don't know if I answered your question, teacher.
Yes, you answered. I just wanted to hear about your opinion, your general opinion. That's good. Also, well, the general topic from this video is the protest. Does this man agree or disagree? So in the 2020 version, he says, "This is America. We're allowed to have protests." And that's it. And I believe he carries very well that point. He's making a statement and he's assertive. He doesn't doubt a single second about that. He says, "This is America. We're allowed to have protests." On the other hand, we have the version of 2011, which he disagrees with the protests. He says, "This is America. Everyone protests for everything." So he disagrees, but even though he disagrees, he also carries his point with enough character. He disagrees, but he is making a statement out of that. In these two versions, it's the same people, it's the same person talking about the same thing. On the first hand is opposing, and on the other hand is agreeing to. What's important is the character. If you say something with enough character, you're gonna make it believable. Now, let's continue. So, go back to the presentation. Okay. Patricia, please help me read this slide.
Ethos. How do I earn authority? There are 4 dimensions to ethos: similarity, trustworthiness, authority, and reputation. Similarity. Does your audience identify with you? Trustworthiness. Does your audience have reason to trust you? Authority. Do you have authority on your topic? How do you prove it to your audience? Reputation. How much expertise does your audience think you have on your topic?
All right, thank you. So right here we're talking about ethos is impression. How do you make yourself have a better impression? And let's put it into the terms of the septo. When you make the septo, you're probably going to encounter a teacher that you don't know, and she doesn't or he doesn't know anything about you. So whatever you say is going to make an impression of you. How do you earn that credibility? Well, Patricia was saying with similarity, you're trying to show some empathy to your teacher, trustworthiness, your character, the way you speak, the tone that you use is that you're going to have in your hand to trust your audience. Authority also. Uh, Depending on the vocabulary that you use, you're gonna tell me if you're an expert or if you don't have any idea about what you're talking. And reputation. This is the last one, the least important, because when we're talking about the septo, you don't have to have any kind of reputation. The reputation, you do it yourself while you talk. All right, that's it. Now we have logos. So logos. I want. Let me see. Yeah, Alejandro, please go ahead and read me this.
Logos. The logic used to support a claim, introduction and deduction. Facts and statistics used to help supporting to an argument. Persuading by the use of reasoning, statistics, facts, examples, reasons. Logos, example.
Very good. Well, in this case, this is reasoning, razonamiento, lo lógico que somos. So, Alejandro, tell me, what is logos about?
About logos, I think it's how speakers transmit this authority with some arguments, with some reasons, and he his coherence to the speech.
Very good. Arguments and, well, you just said it with argument. That's very good. So, logos is the part of the speech where you tell me an idea, but in order to make that believable, it's important that you have some argument behind that idea. Let's go again with the example of the earth is flat. You can't just simply tell me the earth is flat in a very good character, in a very credible, even if it's extremely credible manner. That is, you had a lot of ethos. The earth is flat. No, I need to have some statistics, some facts, some examples, some reasoning, and some reasons. For that, you're gonna have to use and have to talk about some numbers, some experiences, some examples. You can tell me, look, I have read about this research. The University of Cambridge has already addressed this issue, and the government of China is opposing to telling us the truth. So I believe the earth is flat because uh, if it wouldn't be flat, we wouldn't be hiding all of this information that's not available to us right now. Logos is all about giving examples. In the case of the septo, when you tell me about something, give me an example about it. And I have here a very good example about someone. It's Jordan Peterson. Maybe you already know him. He is one of the most popular intellectual celebrities alive. He's probably the number one. So he clearly has a lot of logos, a lot of logical sense. Let's hear about him. talking about Donald Trump's intelligence. Very interesting topic. He's asked, what do you think about the Donald Trump's coefficient? Is he a genius? Is he very intelligent? So let's hear about that. However, I need to close this so not to make the video run better. Okay. Increase the volume. Okay.
What would you say Trump's IQ really is? Does 160 seem reasonable?
No.
This will be quoted in.
No, 160 is really, really high.
Yeah.
I mean, the typical, the smart person that you're likely to meet in your life has an IQ of around 145.
Yeah.
160 is getting pretty damn rare. And Trump's old, and IQ goes down with age, fluid IQ, although crystallized IQ either stays the same or goes up slightly. So he isn't the problem solver or the learner that he was when he was 20. No one is. If you're in good physical shape, that helps a lot. His IQ is clearly well above average. I don't know, and he's done complex things in his.
First argument, his IQ is well above average. He's saying he's very intelligent, but he's not as very intelligent as a genius. 160, that's very rare. That's a genius. But his main argument, he's well above average. Now, let's try to hear what some arguments does Jordan Peterson use to express the idea that President Donald Trump has above well average IQ. Let's continue.
His life, and a lot of them, and that indicates that there's something to him, you know. And he hasn't been successful just in one domain. He's been successful in multiple complex domains, each of which were quite difficult. It's very difficult to be a reality TV star that's successful, right? It's very difficult to work in the construction business, and especially on large projects. And I know he's had his economic ups and downs, but he stayed in the game for a long time. Very stressful. He's very stress resistant. So he's no dummy. And I mean, it's nice to always think that your political opponent is just stupid, but he's done too many complex things for me to assume that he's somehow, if he wasn't smart, he couldn't have done those things.
Yeah, I'm glad you're acknowledging that, because when I see the people that are.
If he wasn't smart, he couldn't have done those things. Okay? So that's some of the arguments that he used to express that statement, that Donald Trump has above average intelligence.
In hysteric mode and just saying he's this evil nutbag who doesn't know what he's doing and all this stuff. It just seems like such a lazy way of thinking about it. You don't have to like any of the things. You may not like the way he speaks or any of that, but the idea that somehow this is a dumb person, I think, is discounting of just the way humans have to work. This is interesting from Super Chat. Do you?
Well, he also won the presidency,
right,
with a completely original campaign, and it's like, and without spending much money. It's like, okay, is he lucky? Because is that what you're saying? It's just lucky.
Right.
Well, I don't think it was just luck. It was at least, maybe, well, it looked at least to some degree like courage. Maybe it was just blind, throwing caution to the wind. You know, I don't know if he ever expected that he could possibly win.
Yeah, and as I'm sure you'd argue, it probably had a little something to do with all of those things, that maybe there was some courage, but that he also surrounded himself with people who maybe understood politics more than he did.
Well, he could obviously, also obviously read a crowd.
Yeah.
Because he was appealing to crowds, and that was partly because he did, I think, try to say what he thought. Now, you could criticize what he thought, and that's fine, but he also didn't prepare the same speech. You know, he didn't prepare a speech and then deliver the same one everywhere, which I think is, I really find that rather reprehensible for people to do that.
Yeah.
Because they're parroting themselves, or someone else writes their speeches, which is something I can't even imagine.
I can't, for what we do, I can't even fathom it, actually.
All right, that was the video about logos. So, Alejandro, please tell me, why did Jordan Peterson have a good logos? Or why did not in the case that you don't believe that?
Well, I don't understand a lot of idea of the video, but I think the logos he exposed about the Donald Trump has different argument reasons when his speak is clear, and the statistics show about economic, it's perfect. And so he said that President Donald Trump has logos.
Okay, well, the first statement that he uses against that Donald Trump is intelligent is that many people discredit him and think he is dumb. Well, of course, he says that he has above average intelligence. However, he uses some examples and some reasonings. So, Patricia, please tell me, what do you think about the argument that the Professor Jordan Peterson used to have logos?
Well, teacher, I think that Mr. Jordan was did a great job because he used the arguments to say to talk about Trump's intelligence IQ using some arguments like that he is a successful person, that he is a man who construct a lot of business and always win, and he knows how to speak in public because he is a public person, because he worked in a as a TV star, and he knows about that. And he defined this person as a lucky person. And in addition, this man said that Trump is a person who always wins his discussions because he knows how to talk with people. He, uh, although he says um, that Trump says all that he is thinking, um, but in conclusion, he's a smart guy.
That's wonderful. You have an incredible listening comprehension. That's very good, Patricia. So,
Thank you, teacher.
yeah, the argument he uses to say that no, that Donald Trump is intelligent is because he's successful. So he's been successful in politics, he's been successful in construction, he's been successful in economics. So there's no luck behind that being successful. It's very strange to say that that comes just from luck. So he obviously had to work for that, and that is his reasoning. I think in this case, and I agree with Patricia, um, Jordan uses a very good argument and is talking about the things that he has done. So I wanted to share with you guys that example of logos and try to apply it. Whenever you talk about something, remember to talk about some argumentation, examples. Some numbers is good also. Pathos. So Patricia, read me this slide, please.
Yes, teacher. Pathos. Persuading by appealing to the reader's emotions. Emotional appeals are one of the most powerful tools of persuasion. Specific words and or image choice personal stories.
Very good. So, Patricia, also tell me, what is pathos about? And I'm going to give you a clue. Here we read emotion. So tell me more about emotion.
In this case, I think that pathos is the way that a person uses to express what is thinking, what how it feels in this moment with the conversation, with the speech, and is eventually emotional person. And this is a tool to persuasion with others. Maybe this
Persuade.
person maybe this person tends to talk about personal stories to win, to get what this person wants.
Very good. That's it. Very good. So when we talk about emotions, remember that you're talking to someone and you probably want to connect with them. How are you going to connect with them? Make them laugh, make them cry, make them angry, make them happy, whatever you want to do. But you want to have some kind of emotion when you talk. One good example that Patricia gave us is talking about previous experiences. And again, we're all humans. We probably experience most of the things that we already know. For example, love, hate, death with relatives. So try to use those to appeal to your audience. In this case, to your evaluator of your septo. Show that in your previous experiences, this was very sad and it was a difficult time for you. Or look, this is very funny because it reminds me to this movie that I watched when I was in Argentina or something like that. You're going to connect with someone as long as you portray some emotions. And so pathos is all about reacting. When you're using pathos as a rhetorical device, you want to have a reaction from your listener. You want them to laugh, you want them to cry, or whatever you want, but you want to have some emotions from them. And this is a very good example about that. I already have it ready. It's about an old soldier versus a new soldier. Well, not a new soldier, but a young soldier from this era. We're not gonna listen to all.
We deployed in Iraq to Iraq in 2006. We deployed in Iraq to Iraq in 2006. We then deployed to Kosovo. From there, we then deployed to Afghanistan.
Well, you've been through quite a lot, son, haven't you?
Hi.
Hello, young man.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Pleasure. How you been? You okay?
Not so bad. Yourself?
On the spot.
On the spot.
There's a stack of them here, isn't there?
All right.
Which war did you fight in?
Second World War. My flotilla was the third flotilla, and there was 12 of us, and we took part in the North African campaign, and then we went on to the invasion of Sicily.
How long were you away for?
2 years. In them days, with a different war, you had to go where you were sent, and some lads went to North Africa and went right through and never got home till way after D-Day. The other wars that followed this, it's an entirely different war than what ours was.
I think it goes through generations, doesn't it? It goes from one war to another.
It's frightening to see what happens to these modern wars. You're fighting an enemy you do not know where he is for a start. Like in our war, as long as you were going forward, you were going the right way. But you get in Afghanistan and that, he can come up behind you and you don't know he's there. And from my way of thinking, I wouldn't like to have fought in that war, I'll be honest with you.
See, that's where...
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't like to fight in that war of Afghanistan. A lot of pathos right there.
I think the two change because I wouldn't like to fight in your war. Because in my eyes, being on a ship...
It's probably safer on a ship. So I can't swim, so...
You can't swim? I thought you were a sailor.
And they never told.
You can't swim. You are in a sailor, and he makes him laugh. You notice he's putting a lot of emotion into his speech. So as a result, the old man is connecting very well to this young guy.
Taught me, but where would you swim to? If you're a long way from home, it don't matter whether you could swim or not.
After training, I got to battalion, and then we deployed to Belize. We went for 6 weeks in the jungle, training, and that was pre-training for Iraq. We deployed in Iraq to Iraq in 2006.
Right now, we're gonna listen about this young man talking about his experience in Afghanistan. Listen to that and tell me if he is using pathos.
Yeah, 2006. That was a 6-month tour, turned into a 7-month tour, and we were deployed to Saddam's palace in Basra South, where we patrolled and did strike ops. After there, we come back. I went on to do my promotion. We then deployed to Kosovo. That was peacekeeping. And then from there, we then deployed to Afghanistan, to Herrick 10. So
All right, Patricia, tell me. He's telling us his story about how was he deployed in Afghanistan. Do you think the young man is using pathos?
No much, teacher, because this guy is making something like a description of the events that he was living there, but I don't feel anything about the speech.
Exactly.
And in the other hand, the old man used pathos in all his sentences.
Yeah, he's making him laugh. He lost some lads in Africa. He had some friends and never went back home. Probably make me feel sad about that. The other guy is gonna feel sad about that. So right there, you got it. Let's keep listening.
completely different operations altogether, from armoured to foot.
Well, you've been through quite a lot, son, haven't you? What are your feelings towards the enemy now in comparison to at the time? That's a good one, that.
At the time, I didn't, it's weird because I'm going to probably stand out here, is I didn't have any hate for them. I believed that we were fighting in someone else's country and they were defending it in a way. But I think that's one of the other reasons why I left, because I didn't believe in it in the end. I think I fought that hard, and I was fighting an enemy so much that I was equal to them. If someone can fight, if someone.
Okay, he had a question with a lot of pathos. What was the question? It was, what were your feelings towards the enemy? So this guy had an extremely good opportunity to talk about pathos and use the pathos device. He made his answer. So Alejandro, oh, he's no longer here. So Patricia, what do you think about that last answer?
Teacher, I don't understand so good this this section of the video, but I try to get the idea, and I think that this young man said that he was fighting in Afghanistan or in Africa. I don't know, or many or much enemies, no more. No, I
That's
don't
good.
understand the other words.
Yeah, because he has a very strong British accent, so we're not very
Yes,
familiar
teacher.
with that. So here the thing is that he had a very good question. What were your feelings towards the enemy? And he simply says, I felt equal to them, which is
Oh,
good, but there's not a lot of pathos right there. It doesn't transmit us anything, right? Or did you feel connected to him?
no, I don't feel connection with this guy
And
because
how about the old man?
as I said at the beginning, the young man is making something like a description, and I feel very good with the old soldier because he was using pathos in all his sentences when he talked about 2 years in the war, when he talks about the ship, that it was the only way to be free. And when he said that he couldn't swim, it was terrible.
Yeah, that's correct, and I agree with you. So in that case, the old man had the most pathos, and even if his vocabulary was not as good as the other man, because let's be honest, the young man had a great vocabulary, we center our attention to the old man because he was connecting us to an emotional level. So keep that in mind when you're doing the septo. You have an opportunity to talk about take some opportunity to talk about emotions. Now, the most effective argument. The most effective arguments utilize all of these three. Some people have a lot of logos, like Jordan Peterson. The previous example that we saw him talking about Donald Trump. A lot of logos, not so much pathos, which is good, but you want to have an extremely good argument, you need to use all of the three. And the first one, we had this man that said, "This is America. We're all allowed to protest, and this is America. Everyone protests here." He uses a lot of ethos, but he didn't use pathos or logos. So ineffective speakers right there. As we're looking at a rationalist literature, we will examine these three and how they're used. In January, you will apply to them to your research paper. But this was actually taken from an exercise of rhetoric, the rhetoric course of this university. And well, the exercise is a written paper. In this case, I want you to apply this to the CEPT so that you can have a better speech. And finally, let's talk about the questions. We're about to finish. So the CEPT often ask you some trivial questions. And I say trivial because they're very easy questions. We can talk about them any day. So take them as an opportunity to be radical with your ideas. What are some of these questions that you're gonna hear in the CEPT? Why is happiness important? Why is education good? Why is family important? Things like that, which, to be honest, and we can call them, these are very stupid questions. However, take them as an opportunity to be polarizing. And I often relate this topic to the job interview. When you're being interviewed, most of the time, they want you to have a radical idea, whether you extremely agree with something or whether you extremely disagree with that same thing. You also have the opportunity to be neutral, but when you have a trivial question, always be polarizing. If someone asks you, why is happiness important? Don't stick with the often carried way of saying, I think happiness is important because we all deserve happiness. It's good, you have good vocabulary, you had good logos, but let's be honest, you're answering to a stupid question with somewhat of a stupid answer. So let's look at this question and see how this guy, Zizek, Slavoj Zizek, talks about this. This is the final video. Why is happiness important? So let's see it. Oh, I don't have it ready. In 1 second. Oh, this is. Got it.
You know, happiness is for me a very conformist category. It doesn't enter the frame. You have a serious ideological deviation at the very beginning of famous proclamation of independence, you know, pursuit of happiness. If there is a point in psychoanalysis, it is that people do not really want or desire happiness. And I think it's good that it is like that. For example, let's be serious. When you are in a creative endeavor, in that wonderful fever, my God, I'm onto something, and so on, happiness doesn't enter it. You are ready to suffer. Sometimes scientists, I read history of quantum physics or earlier of radiation, were even ready to take into account the possibility that they will die because of some radiation and so on. You know, happiness is for me an unethical category. And also, we don't really want to get what we think that we want. The classical story that I like, the traditional male chauvinist scenario. I'm married to a wife, relations with her are cold, and I have a mistress. And all the time I dream, oh my God, if my wife were to disappear, I'm not a murderer, but let us say, drop me, it would open up new life for me with the mistress. You know what every psychoanalyst will tell you quite often happens? That then, for some reason, wife goes away, you lose the mistress also. You thought, this is all I want. When you have it there, you turn out that it was a much more complex situation where what you want is not really to live with the mistress, but to keep her as a distance, as an object of desire about which you dream. And this is not just an excessive situation. I claim that this is how things function. We don't really want what we think we desire.
We don't really want what we think we desire. Can you imagine if you answer with something like that to accept the question, Patricia? You will probably get the highest score.
I don't know if, excuse me, teacher.
Yes, go ahead.
No, can you repeat, please?
So in this case, he was answering to the question, why is happiness important? And he answered, we never know when we want to have something. We don't know when we desire something. So happiness is not important. I was saying, if you answer to something like this to accept the question, it will be amazing because you have a very polarizing idea. You're neglecting the idea that happiness is important. For you, happiness is not important at all. If you have opinions like this and you show them in the CEPT, it is most likely that you're going to have the highest score possible. All right? So keep that in mind. And finally, I wanted to talk about some of the CZEC impediments. And Patricia, I'd like to ask you, was this last man hard to understand for you?
I really don't understand a lot this guy because he was so excited when he was answering, and I tried to understand him, but it was difficult.
That's right. So he had some speech impediments, and let me go back to the presentation right quick. So Zizek impediments, he had a lisp. He speaks like this with not very clear F. We call that a lisp. He has a very heavy accent. He is from Serbia. So his native tongue is not English. And he has mannerisms. He always use his hands. He scratched his forehead. He was scratching his shirt. So even though he had a lot of speech impediments, like lisp, heavy accent, and mannerism, he was able to come across with a good point, and it was that he didn't agree with that happiness is important. And finally, to close this session, I'd like you to think about the instrumentalist view of language. So the way we work this by watching videos is because your speech is gonna be incredibly enhanced when you watch YouTube videos instead of practicing how to speak. What is that? Some people think that they need to get better at speaking by speaking, and that is not true. That is never the case. You enhance your speaking skill by watching very good speakers and by reading very good books. And that will be everything for today, Patricia. I wonder if you have questions about this.
No, teacher, I don't have questions. I understand all the things that you are saying, that you explain.
All right. So I appreciate that. I'm going to finish this session, and I hope you have a nice rest of the day. Take care, Patricia.
Thank you so much, teacher. Have a nice day, and also you are a great teacher because you explain in a better way, in a good way. I like how you speak your English.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you. You made my day.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
teacher. Bye-bye. Bye.